Okay, there we go. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl. I'm here with my good friends Dan and Catherine, and today we're going to continue our discussion of The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. We are in chapter 1 still. This is a long chapter, a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. And, hold on. Anyway, today is going to be part 4 of our discussion of chapter 1. We're on page 25, talking about the upper limit thermostats of famous people and highly successful people. And but before we get going, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Catherine, you can go ahead and read the section, and then we can go from there. Okay, I got guys.
Okay, I'll jump out. I was trying to be nice and let Catherine go first, but I'm Dan Sislick. I'm here in Las Vegas, and I'm glad to be here again, as always.
Good morning. It's Catherine Clement. I always go last, Dan, because I'm the reader. But thank you for trying to let me be nice. All right, here we go. We are on page 25, and the little section is called the upper limit. Can you hear me okay? Because I switched to my mic. Okay. The upper limit thermostats of famous and highly successful people. Once, as a young man, Bill Clinton stood in line to take a tour of the White House. He casually said to an attendant, "I'm going to live here someday as president." And he achieved that goal. But then his upper limit problem kicked in. He self-sabotaged his success by getting involved in a sex scandal that led to impeachment and disgrace. He failed to understand his upper limit problem, and it kept him from enjoying fully his place in American history. Here are a few more prominent examples of the upper limit problem in action. John Belushi rose to enormous success quite rapidly. At his peak, he had a #1 album, the top grossing movie, and a hit TV show. Then his upper limit problem got him. He self-destructed as meteorically as he had risen. Then there's Boris Becker, who won Wimbledon at the remarkable age of 17. 17, wow. Almost before the trophy was on the mantle, though, his upper limit problem kicked in. He decided to fire his coach, the man who'd taken him to tennis greatness. The next year, Boris hardly got in the door at Wimbledon before getting beat by the 71st ranked player. Ouch. The actor Christian Bale starred in the Batman movie The Dark Knight, which had one of the most profitable openings in movie history. In London, for the movie's premiere, he got into an altercation in his hotel room with his mother and sister, no less, and ended up with assault charges filed against him. People often experience big breakthroughs and then find a way to avoid relishing their achievement. They receive an award at work and then have a screaming argument with their spouse later that same night. They get the job of their dreams and then get sick. They win the lottery, then have an accident. The newfound success trips their upper limit switch, and they plummet back to the familiar setting they've grown used to. My wife, Kathleen, I've never seen that name, Kathleen, and I have enjoyed Bonnie Raitt's company as a friend and have celebrated her evolution as an artist for close to 20 years. She is a great living example of how to find your ultimate success by taking the big leap. Although she lives securely now in her zone of genius, her path to get there was long and arduous. In the first part of her career, Bonnie earned an excellent reputation as a blues musician. Her blues albums were seldom bestsellers, but they always did well enough to keep her devoted fans happy and the clubs full. Like many of her idols in the blues lineage, though, she paid her dues by years of struggle with addictions. Battling her demons consumed a great deal of her energy, and it wasn't until she got sober that she made her big leap. Two of her best friends, Stevie Ray Vaughan and John Hyatt, inspired her by kicking their addictions and succeeding in 12-step programs. Finally, she made the commitment to get clean and sober, and that's when the real magic began. With the new energy and clarity she gained through sobriety, Bonnie took a look at her career and made a fateful decision. She decided to jump out of the trap of excellent blues musician. She made a conscious choice to launch herself into the bigger world of mainstream rock music. She was hearing songs inside herself that didn't fit into the traditional themes, rhythms, and keys of the blues. So she said a loving goodbye to the friendly confines of the blues world and took the big leap into the unknown. She recorded an album of the new music and went on the road with a new band. In her meditation, she visualized herself on stage at the Grammy Awards, receiving the accolades of the music industry for the new music. She even visualized the specific dress she would wear when she received the award. Not long afterward, she was standing on stage receiving a Grammy for their new album, Nick of Time, which went on to sell millions of copies. Now, 9 Grammys, sold out stadiums, and millions of albums later, she is a living testimony to the power of claiming your zone of genius. It took a big leap on her part to go from clubs to stadiums, but she took that risk and was reaped incredible rewards. Beyond all the Grammy Awards and other material benefits, though, is an achievement that's purely a gift to the soul, the deep satisfaction of living in her zone of genius. That's what I want you to experience. You know deep inside you that you will never be fully satisfied until you have anchored yourself in your zone of genius. To do less would be to hold back. And long ago, you made a handshake deal with the universe that you wouldn't do that. The seductive comforts of success, though, can lull us into accepting the status quo. In that state of comfort, it's easy to forget the deal you made with the universe to use yourself fully. Solving one problem and freeing yourself. By its very nature, the upper limit problem is unsolvable in your ordinary state of consciousness. If you could solve it that way, you would have solved it long ago. Solving the upper limit problem is is possible only by a leap of consciousness. Once you learn this way to solve problems, you'll have a tool you can apply wherever and whenever you want to increase your success. Specifically, the upper limit problem cannot be solved in the usual way we solve problems, by gathering information or replacing one set of information with another. The upper limit problem must be dissolved, not solved. You dissolve it by shining a laser-like beam of awareness on its underpinnings, the false foundations that hold the upper limit problem in place. When you shine the light of awareness on the underpinnings, they disappear. Then you are free to soar, explore, and rest at home in the no limits zone of your ultimate success. Our activities in the world occur in 4 main zones. The zone of incompetence. The zone of incompetence is made up of all the activities we're not good at. Others can do them a lot better than we can. Surprisingly, many successful people persist in wasting time and energy doing things for which they have no talent. When you focus awareness on yourself by using the tools in this book, you may be surprised to find how much time you spend operating in this zone. When you free yourself from this zone, you will be rewarded with a remarkable new feeling of energy and zest for living. The best way to handle most things in your zone of incompetence is to avoid doing them altogether. Delegate them to someone else or find some other creative way to avoid doing them. I got a call one Sunday night from a friend of mine, Thomas, a business consultant with whom I play golf from time to time. He told me he'd spent a frustrating weekend installing a new $1,000 printer at his home. Most frustrating to him was the 4 hours he'd spent on the phone with the technical support people at Hewlett Packard. I happen to know that he is just about as unskilled as I am at mechanical things. I also know that he bills his consulting time at $10,000 a day. His hourly rate for an over-the-phone executive coaching is $1,000 an hour. I asked him how many hours in total he'd spent wrestling with the new printer. 13, he said, sounding a bit sheepish. I said, you spent $13,000 trying to install a $1,000 printer. Did you ever get it? Excuse me. Did you ever get it working? No, he said. I eventually called a college kid in the neighborhood. He came over and got it working in an hour. And you paid him how much? I asked. Thomas said, at first he didn't want anything, but I made him take $100. I forgot to mention that his frustrating Saturday had been capped off that evening by an argument with his wife. You can probably guess what the argument was about. All the hours he was spending on the printer installation instead of with her and the family. Add that cost to the $13,000 plus the $100 service tab, and you have an expensive excursion in the zone of incompetence. One thing I've learned from a lifetime of observing, being smart doesn't keep you from doing dumb things. My grandfather had a colorful phrase he used, stuck on stupid. It meant that you kept doing the same dumb things over and over without learning from them. I felt a bit like that when I first realized how much time and energy got consumed when I was doing things I was not good at. It's worthwhile to do something you're not good at if the intention is to enjoy or master it. Skiing was like that for me. Give me just one second. I grew up in Florida and never saw a snowflake in person until I was 23 years old. My first outing on skis was probably laughable viewed from the outside, but from the inside, it was memorably painful. I fell so many times that when I got home that night, I felt like I'd been hit repeatedly by a bus. It was worth it though, because I wanted to enjoy skiing someday. For my friend Thomas, spending all weekend fretting over a printer did not come from an intention of someday mastering printer installation. In his words, it came from trying to save a few bucks. Do you want me to continue or?
I think we can talk about this for a minute.
Okay.
We can always see what the next one is. Um, I don't know about you guys, but I think I've spent a little bit of time in the zone of incompetence for no good reason. I was trying to think of a time that I'd done that. I mean, other than computers, obviously with computers, just this, I think I can be in the zone of incompetence often with that. Although, I mean, I would say I probably have a little bit more understanding of some of the aspects of it than other people, but I get this whole concept of trying to like save money by doing it yourself, but yet at the same time, when you do it yourself, it can be so frustrating and so time consuming trying to figure it out. I mean, whatever it is, whether it's computer stuff or home maintenance and repairs, I mean, those are things that I'm just not really good at, but yet at the same time, I think I'm saving myself money. So I like how I kind of shined a light on this concept of this one particular person billing it $1,000 an hour. That seems crazy, but I'm sure there's people that do that. So, I guess if I think about, how much I might earn by focusing on the things that I know how to do versus things I have no idea how to do. And yeah, I could probably save myself some heartache and frustration and everything like that.
I'm going back to even a little bit more in the beginning of this section. What was it? The upper limits thermostats of how we kind of, hit their things and how a lot of times we don't see ourselves in that same light. We think of them as these really special people and something more, and that all the things that happen to them have more to it than just something that simple as that they took themselves up because of their own, limiting beliefs and stuff and things like that. But and there was part that was in there, and I'm trying to think of where it was. I think it was. We covered. There was a lot in here that kind of hit me, but like this guy where he was trying to save a few bucks and do it himself. And I think we all forget how to place a value on our time and our energy and on what we're good at and what we're not good at. And I think that's the key thing I'm pulling out of it is that, his skill of mastery is in doing what he does with his work and stuff. It's not in installing, printers, but like I said, I think we've all gone through that stage where I'll save me a few bucks, I'll just YouTube it or this or that, and I should be able to figure it out. And then later, after much frustration and head banging, and you either might get it fixed, but it's I was fighting with my printer because I had to get a new Wi-Fi router because my router finally had really lost its power because I think it was like 10 years old or something like that. So I mean, it had gotten old, and it finally just one day just really did not work right, and it was frustrating me. So then I got a new one, got it hooked up, got it going, hooked up my printer after I bought it, got it hooked, but it was hooked up to the old Wi-Fi. So when I put on the new Wi-Fi and tried to use it, it didn't. Even though it said it was working, it was connected and everything, it wouldn't work. I fought with that thing for a few weeks on and off when I had free time in between working and doing all that thing and stuff. And it was really pissing me off because I'm like, I know you work. You should be working. I was really getting to that point. Like, why are you not working? It says you're working. I can get it to print the test page. So if it prints the test page, I know it should be able to work. Finally got so frustrated that I just uninstalled it, totally uninstalled it, unplugged it, then plugged it back in, reinstalled it, did all that, re-updated the drivers and everything and all that, from the steps that it told me to do on the online manual, and then tried it again, and voila, it worked. And I'm just like, why did I not try doing that in the first place? But it was just like, there are things we'll bang our heads over because we're trying to prove to ourselves that we can master this and do this, when ultimately we usually find out that, I need to get somebody that either is capable, like the guy with college kid, and pay him a couple $100, but he makes a good point. But the point I wanted to make was, even though he worked on it on like a Saturday or something and spent 13 hours on it, that's typically a day he's not at work. So that would be a day that you would do those type of things. So that little bit of correlation to me didn't quite add up, because it's like, it's a Saturday, a weekend, my free time, my downtime, I'm doing this on that time. I'm not working. So how can I equate it to, but I can equate it to the frustration and, 13 hours that, yes, I could have been spending time with my family and doing stuff with that or other enjoyable things. And had I just paid the kid the $100 in the first place, life would have been done and over and moving forward. So that's the one little part that kind of tripped me up.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you were talking about how we not so much spend time in the incompetence zone necessarily to try and save money, because I think that when we are in a lower income bracket, that it's not about money, it's about something else. And I think that sometimes it's more about if we're spending our time in, say, our zone of genius, it's probably something we're enjoying doing, and that we I don't know. I mean, I can tell you, I spent a lot of time doing stuff that, I think I'm supposed to do because, maybe I don't think I've done enough work this week, or I don't think I've done enough. I don't even know what, like, particularly when I'm working from home, I will find myself, I don't know, just kind of like off in this land of, oh, I'm really not feeling like doing this one thing that I probably ought to do. And so I'll like busy myself with some other thing and tell myself, oh, that's what I should be doing, or like on the other side of it, say, like, when it comes to taking care of myself physically or mentally, like, I don't know, I have like some kind of like a weird thing in my head telling me, okay, that's you haven't done enough over here, you don't deserve to give yourself time to do something for yourself. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but um, I don't know. It's a weird thing. you know, I don't know. Maybe you can catch what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. I know that well. I will get, if I have to do one thing today, I'll get 20 other things done before I get that one thing done, trying to avoid that one thing. Like, it's the craziest situation. But yeah, this zone of incompetence. Oh my goodness. Well, I love learning how to do new things, and I love, like, I am kind of mechanical. So, and I don't have, I haven't had the money to fix things in the past, when the AC got blown out of my house, and I was like, well, there went Dan. I was like, well, I can't afford to, have an electrician come in and fix this. So I'm going to watch some YouTube videos. And thank God for YouTube. I was able to watch enough YouTube videos to figure out how to read the schematic and how to replace the transformer on the central heating and air conditioning in my house. And yeah, there's always frustrating times when I decide to do that, but there's also a huge sense of accomplishment when I do finally get it done. And in that case, I mean, it was the difference of having heat or air or not, because I really couldn't afford to have someone else come do it. So but this is the thing, like, I've always thought, you know, I do those kind of things because I don't have the money. I always thought if I had the money, I would just call the electrician and say, come fix my AC. you know, I've never, I can't imagine, charging $1,000 an hour and then spending 13 hours. But I also know that he probably wasn't just trying to save a few bucks, because bucks are probably not an issue for him, although people can have a lot of money and still have money problems. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you don't have the same money problems you had when you were broke. There can still be more going out than coming in, regardless of how much you make. And but I would venture to say that it was probably something a little deeper, more of, uh, anybody can hook up a printer. I would be less of a man if I called somebody to come hook up my printer. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe not exactly in those words, but it was probably more of a, I can do this, and But this is the thing, we all kind of do that. We say we can do it, and then, where do you draw the line between, when you're at that, say, fourth hour instead of the 13th hour, like when do we give in? Because we have people telling us all the time, push through your fears and push and push and push. And then, so when you're getting frustrated like that, when do you decide that it's time to fold up the towel, or whatever that saying is, and throw in the towel? Yeah. Um, or do you just keep pushing through, or do you call it at the fourth hour instead of the 13th hour? Or, when it's causing family problems, or, like, where's the line?
Yeah, that the idea of like the family problems, and that could be part of it too. I mean, if we're talking about he's doing this instead of spending time with his family, is there an underlying reason there where, if he's operating from maybe an upper limit problem within his family, I mean, because I'm not just talking about your career aspect, you're talking about our family, our relationships, our financials, our career, all of the different things. And so he could easily be operating from some aspect of, oh, okay, things are going really great. When's crap going to hit the fan? And then he does this thing to sabotage, say, their Saturday. Maybe they had plans, and he, used that as an excuse. Maybe not purposefully, but accidentally, or by the self-sabotaging aspect of it. So that could be part of it too. So I think that is one thing. It's like I used to, I don't know, years ago when I had my pet grooming business and we were kind of a younger family, I had a lot of well, not a lot, but Chris was like a truck driver and I was a pet groomer, and it was my own business, and we had the kids and they were young, and I was trying to build my business, and so I spent a lot of off time working on like website development, which I didn't know how to do, but of course we didn't have the money to pay somebody, so that was something I did. But I kind of look back now and I wonder if, part of that time that I was spending so much time on the computer, so much time on all the stuff that I thought I needed to do for the business, if I was actually taking away from my family time. I mean, I was. It's just, was I doing that as a self-sabotaging aspect of it? There's the question mark. I can kind of look back and be like, I wonder, because I mean, I know that at that time Chris was very frustrated with me because he would be, when he would be home and I'd be home and the kids were doing their thing and I'd be on the computer, and he would not be happy about the fact that I'd be spending so much time on the computer when he wanted me to spend time with him or the kids or whatever. And so I can see how that would that was kind of playing into sabotaging our relationship, if you will, by spending time on stuff that, maybe I did, maybe I didn't need to do it. Who knows? Who knows? So, you know.
Right. Welcome back, G7. You're muted, honey. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I'm waiting for it to kick in on my computer, but yeah, I'm back. I'm on my phone.
Well, welcome back. I think another thing, just another thought on this incompetence thing is, they're talking about spending time in this zone of incompetence. Incompetence is actually one of the 12 fundamental beliefs that is covered in that other book. And incompetence is a belief that is father driven, and you're looking for recognition from your father from the ages of 2 to 4, 2 to 5, as you're, learning how to do things in the world, and you're expecting your father to recognize that. And when you don't get that, it develops this underlying belief of that I am incompetent of doing things. And so one of the um, one of the ways that we compensate for that is by trying to prove, we do too much, trying to prove that we're competent. And in the act of trying to do too much, we kind of set ourselves up to fail at the same time, which proves the fact that we're incompetent, So it's sort of like this cyclical sort of thing going on. And he could have definitely been using one of his um, compensating actions, trying to prove that he could do this, to prove that he wasn't incompetent. That could have been one of his. So there's kind of a double play on this zone of incompetence for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see how that would work. Getting there, Dan? Shall we read the next one? See what we think about that one.
Okay. The zone of competence. You're competent at the activities in the zone of competence, but others can do them just as well. Successful people often discover that they expand far too much time and energy in this zone. Not long ago, I worked with a woman in her mid 40s who contributes a classic example of the competence trap. An executive in a small firm, Joan was referred to me by her medical doctor, who felt that some of her health issues were due to what I sometimes call diseases of unfulfillment. When people are not expressing their full potential, they often get illnesses that have vague, hard to diagnose symptoms. Chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia are good examples of what I'm describing. I've seen both of those illnesses disappear when people begin to break out of their subgenius zones and move toward fulfilling their true potential. In the course of several sessions, Joan moved from talking about chronic fatigue syndrome to telling me about a workplace frustration that had recycled for several years. Because she was good at organizing things, she got called on more and more to handle tasks outside of her job description, from the company picnic to the travel schedules of the other executives. One of the executive assistants could do those kinds of things, she told me, but I end up doing them because it's quicker to do it myself than to delegate and follow up on them. I asked her, if you could stop doing that sort of thing, what would it free up time for you to do? She mentioned a few activities, but none of them produced any expressions of liveliness or excitement on her face. I asked her to go a little deeper. If money or your job description were not an issue, what would you really like to be doing in the company? Here we struck gold. I wouldn't be doing anything in the company, she said. I'd be working on an environmental project I'm obsessed with. I think it could turn into something big, but there's a big gap between thinking that and making a living at it. That admission turned the key. We made a plan. That first call that first called her to eliminate the extra organizational tasks that kept her in her zone of competence. It took her a couple of weeks to extricate herself and delegate those tasks to others. Just taking that initial step cleared up most of her physical symptoms. She felt so much better that the second part of the plan took an unexpected turn in a new direction. She decided to cut back to half time at the company and devote her newfound energy to working on the environmental project. Time will tell if she can stake out a life in her zone of genius, but at least she is not carrying the burden of unfulfillment and its attendant symptoms.
Let's talk about that for a second. It's talking about this disease of unfulfillment, and in the section, one of the sections prior to it talked about where is it? An achievement that's purely a gift to the soul, the deep satisfaction of living in your zone of genius, and something like, you know, deep inside you that you will never be fully satisfied until you have anchored yourself in your zone of genius. So I guess I'm curious about that. You know, do you feel like you are not living in your zone of genius, or do you feel like there's something that you would be doing if you weren't in whatever is happening in your life now? You know, because I think he's kind of trying to allude at that, like, you know, like these illnesses. I mean, I can see, like, you know, in other people in my life, I can see how, like, particularly on the chronic disease issue, you know, I know somebody uh, very close to me, and I can see the dissatisfaction in her life about how unhappy she is about so many things and how she has these issues, this particularly like from fibromyalgia, and she's developed all kind of things that I feel like are because of her anger and frustration and depression and all of that. But I wonder, you know, if she even has any idea what she would do if, say, money wasn't an object, or her life was not in, you know, if she could allow herself to get out of her own way, you know. And you know, I think about that for myself sometimes, particularly when we're reading books like this. It's like, okay, well, if I was to change something, what is it that I would want to do? Do you know what you would want to do if money was no object? Either of you?
For me, there's lots of things that I'd like to do if money was no object. And but I've not really put a lot of thought into that because I think first I have to get through my limiting upper limit in order to then facilitate, you know, even starting to think. I mean, I've dreamed about, you know, um, I really would like to be able to find something that I like doing and I enjoy doing. Um, that gives me residual income and passive income to where I don't really have to do it a lot. But when I do it, I enjoy doing it. So that way, then I can go off and do a lot of the other things I would like to do that are enjoyable, enjoyable for me, and that, you know, will give me that ability to do those things. So that's a question I haven't really dived deep into.
You know, it's funny because I think this is one of those societal limiting beliefs that gets put on us that, you know, especially like if you're an artist or a musician or something, and that's what, you know, really lights you up. How many artists and musicians are told, well, yeah, but, or even sports people, you know, are told, well, yeah, there are people that make tons and tons of money doing that, but like those are those are special, you know, they're super special people or super special circumstances, and you just need to find a job that pays the bills and takes care of everything, that and then that'll give you money, and then on your free time you can do what you enjoy. And that's pretty much kind of what we're told is the scenario. You know, everybody has to do the job that they don't really like so that they can have a few hours of free time to do what they do like. And I think we've really got that screwed up. I don't think it should be that way. But that's why they say, you know, there's that saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's where that saying comes from, you know. But I I what would I do if time and money weren't an issue? This is an extremely hilarious question for me because um I would give away all my services. because there's so many people that can't afford them. And that's what I already do. So I'm pretty much already doing it. But seriously, not that that's not serious. It is serious. I need to look at that more. But this, I totally get what he's saying about, or I can see where people can make a correlation between long-standing chronic illness, especially the ones with non-specific symptoms, or not non-specific symptoms, but causes, etiologies. I can see how they would look at someone and say, well, they're not living their dream, so they're going to manifest all this physical stuff. Definitely we manifest physical stuff in the body from what's going on inside. There's no doubt about that. But I think a lot of times people, get into these ruts because they are doing the job that they don't like or whatever forever and ever and ever, and they're stuck in the family situation they don't like or whatever. And so people get in these ruts, or not that they don't like, but that they don't feel, a lot of people just don't have the tools to live with other people in a good way because they just haven't learned the how to do that. And when you have all these trapped emotions and your focus is on how life sucks and how this is just, going to go on forever and how unhappy you are. And, like you've said so many times, Samantha, in talking about your marriage, there was a point where you were focused only on all the bad stuff going on in the marriage. And I think people get like that with their lives, and that can definitely lead to illness. And then when you find something, anything that moves your focus, and because I deal with focus every day, because I have pain, so I have to move my focus away from the pain. The When you get excited about something and you move your focus, it allows some healing to occur, sometimes miraculously. And but it's really more, I don't know that it's like, I don't want everybody to think that if they don't find like their soul purpose, discover their soul purpose, that they can't have a happy life, because that's not true. Because a lot of us question, or or don't have that feeling of what our quote soul purpose was or whatever. I mean, we've covered that in other books.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, because I can see it's like, say we lived in a society like is on like Star Trek, or, one of those kind of shows where, money is not necessary. They all just kind of, I don't know, they've solved their energy problems and fuel problems, whatever, and have gotten to the point where society isn't based on money anymore. And so people pursue the things that they're most interested in and contribute to society in whatever way. And it's like I've thought about that sometimes, and I'm like, what if if we were at that point in our you know evolution, if you will, what would I do? And at this point in time, I can't see myself doing any one thing for any extended period of time, because like you were saying, Catherine, I love learning new things, and I feel like a lot of times I get bored with whatever I'm doing for a period of time, and learning something new is the the thing that is the most stimulating aspect of it. And so, if we try and correlate that to financials, I mean, when you're learning something new, you either are paying somebody so that you can learn it, or B, it's not paying you anything, or C, you're getting paid very minimal as like an apprentice or something along that lines, and so it, it's a frustrating thing to think that, oh, okay, if I really wanted to follow my heart and learn new things, continuously throughout my life, I would never make any money, so, or very, very minimal. So then we're back around to this other aspect of, the financial, thing is we still have to do the things that we don't like so much in order just to make ends meet, if you will. And, but yet then you read other books and they're like, if you just find your whatever your path, or get through your shit or whatever, that somehow it's all going to work out and you're going to just make millions of dollars. I don't know, but then and on the other aspect of it is, we can take what we have that we are working with and do the best that we can with it, and try and focus on the things we do enjoy about it versus the stuff that we don't, so that we aren't making ourselves miserable and causing ourselves to have illnesses over it and all that kind of thing too. So I mean, there's so many different aspects to it, I feel like.
I was gonna say, for me, I think part of what I'm hope to gain out of this book is to learn how to recognize my upper limits, and then two, learn how to get into that zone of genius, so I can be like those people that have somehow stepped into that realm of, and I'm going to use examples that I don't follow them. I don't like, I don't think they're the best examples of what I want to be like when I get there, but they somehow seem to accomplish and found their zone of genius. I think in my mind are the Kardashians. It's like their money, it almost seems like it's almost generated out of air because of all how many things their hands are in, and they don't really, they work but they don't work, if you understand what I'm getting at. And so me, that's what I'm hoping to learn and gain into, so that way I can then allow a way and a means of hopefully bringing in money that I can start to move in that direction. So then I can maybe find that passion of what I really love to do. I kind of know some of it already, but I'd like to be able to move into be able to try and work on that and see if that's really what I want. Because I'm kind of like you, Samantha. I tend to do stuff for a little while and it's like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this. I want to change for a while. Let me do this for a while. And then, okay, now it's like, okay, I'm ready to go back to this, something I did before maybe that I like, but it's that up and down flux and just all that. But yet I want to have the ability to take it to that next level, so that way, no matter what I do, I can, not worry about the stresses of, am I going to survive? Am I going to, and doing the mundane things that I have to do.
Well, we're at the top of the hour, guys. We've read some interesting stuff in this book, and we have a lot more to cover. So it'll be interesting to see, where we can make our changes in order to reach a higher level of success. Now, I think also is we have to define, what do we think success really means? I think that can be an aspect of it too. Is it, if we continue to think that success is just one or another aspect, say, we have this idea that we can't do what we want to do and also be financially secure. I don't know. Maybe we need to examine that a little bit. Maybe that's part of one of those beliefs that we need to kind of look at and be like, maybe one doesn't really have anything to do with the other. And, I don't know, something. But anyone with final thoughts before we wrap up for today?
I'll just say like, I think a part of, I'll say my problem, but I'm sure a lot of other people's problem, but I'll claim it as mine for sure, is that I don't know what I want. I don't know. Like, and so I feel like I have gotten into my car and pulled up Google Maps and put I don't know in, and I keep going around in circles because it doesn't know where to go, And so I think I really need to define where I want to go or where I want to be. I guess always, envisioning the end result. All the books have told us that, right? So I think I need to get more solid because I know the universe helps me. I see, evidence of that every day. So maybe if I can just actually put an address in that GPS, then it'll be able to get me to where I'm going. Have a great week, everybody. Love you guys.
I think you kind of hit it on the head there, Catherine, that I think deep down we all have our inklings or our ideas or that secret wish of what we would really like to do, but we don't allow ourselves to really go there and put that into the GPS so that way we can, maybe allow the universe to then guide us. Because in some ways, I think and I hate using this terminology, but I think we're more afraid of where we will finally end up and what might happen on that journey to get there, rather than just trusting and believing that no matter what, we will get there and it will work in our best interest, because that's coming from that pure place of pure desire and want and passion, and what the universe has always tried to get us to go to, if that makes sense.
I think this will be a good discussion to continue on next week, because the next section is another one of these competency themes. The zone of excellence. So we'll see what they have to say next week. Well, guys, it's been a really amazing talk today, because, we always touch on some really great things and deep thoughts, and I love that we can do that together. So if you guys are watching and you found this interesting, click like on our YouTube channel there and subscribe to us, and you'll get a notification each time we upload a new video or go live. So with that, guys, oh, if you'd like to participate, you can find us at Mindset Mastery Collective on Facebook, or just Google Mindset Mastery Collective and you'll find our YouTube channel, our Facebook group, our website, etc. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week. We'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.